What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Since the release of The Rise of Skywalker, we've learned a whole lot more of the thought process specifically behind the character of Palpatine, and how he was going to be depicted in The Rise of Skywalker originally. We recently learned, thanks to the extended edition and bonus content from The Rise of Skywalker, that Palpatine was going to be far more gruesome originally, and that the people that worked on The Rise of Skywalker originally had Palpatine being somewhat dismembered, with at this point in time it being made clear that it was not the plan for Palpatine to be a clone, and with J.J. Abrams bringing this plan in a little bit later. But again, originally concept artists were playing with the idea that this was actually Palpatine's original body, and that he had developed some type of Sith machine to keep him alive. But again, he was partially dismembered, something that we did not get in The Rise of Skywalker, with more of his body simply being a cloned body. A lot of this information comes from a makeup supervisor on The Rise of Skywalker, who was given small details about the character of Palpatine, and where they wanted to originally take the character of Palpatine design-wise, again with parts of him being dismembered and partially destroyed, and Palpatine maybe even just being partially just a torso, something that was eventually switched to a cloned body. But these are the full quotes. Luke Fisher, who was one of the concept designers who worked with us, did a lot of sketches of Palpatine being on a kind of life support system, something that is keeping him alive and keeping him in one piece, and then some parts of his physicality are almost independently being fed the necessary nutrients of life-giving entities. So the idea of him being held on a rig, which allowed him to move around, and almost the Nosferatu aspect of the sequence, all of those things were part of trying to come up and to understand how much we could show with Palpatine, and all of his various injuries following Return of the Jedi, and what type of state he's in. In the early concept days, they were quite extreme. We explored a dismembered version of Palpatine. We explored more abstract versions of what he might be, and what he might look like now. You slowly get to the point where in the director J.J. Abrams' world that Palpatine is a clone story, and that is being told. But to an audience, that may be a not so familiar thing in Star Wars, and they don't have to know the backstory of it so much. You can understand and be a part of that story without necessarily having too much history behind it. It's the combination of being able to tell the story, but at the same time have some depth to it, which is referring back to a much larger meaning or greater explanation. Obviously, he's talking about the fact that they did not exactly address how Palpatine survived in the Rise of Skywalker film, saying that the design of Palpatine sort of fills in a lot of the details, which I don't necessarily agree with, and I feel like it should have been made abundantly clear that Palpatine was actually a clone in the Rise of Skywalker. Nonetheless, I still understand what the concept artist and makeup artist is saying. What is interesting though is these alternate designs of Palpatine, and how in a lot of them he was more dismembered and far more gruesome, and I definitely hope that these concept art images of Palpatine resurface someday down the line. Anyway guys, what are your thoughts on this, and this alternate design for a Palpatine, and a more dismembered version of Palpatine? Would you eventually like to see this? And what do you think about the design of Palpatine we got in the actual Rise of Skywalker film? As always my friends, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.